It's by Cleans Reptiles, and it's already 5 years old. And what's interesting is that right now this video is called The Green Iguana, the best pet lizard ? But when I first time I was recommended this video, to see this video, it was called The Green Iguana, the worst pet possible. I think so. I will not, don't take my word on that, but I think this name of this video was changed. I'm not sure, but I think it is. So let's see.
Hi there. I'm here today with Jade, who is a green iguana, and we want to talk a little bit about the green iguana. Jade comes from a local reptile rescue. My buddy Rick Voss runs a rescue, and he's got Jade. Jade is a green iguana, though her color is actually blue. That's just a...
Yeah, that's very interesting that iguana as a species, like this one, the green iguana, it's even called iguana, which means the color. Like the meaning of the word iguana is green. So then the name of the species is green, like iguana. And this is a morph of this animal.
Mutation. She's a morph. It's called exanthic or blue phase green iguana, but she's the same species, iguana. Now this is green iguana, the best pet lizard. So, is the green iguana the best pet lizard?
Yes, but for me, for some people, not for everyone.
Goodness no. Nope. But is it the best pet iguana? Yeah, also not that. Not even close to that. Is it the best large iguana? I mean, you know, because... Nope. No, it's not. And none of them are good. This is possibly the worst.
None of them are good. Listen. Watch your language, man. Iguanas are the best. At least some of them are.
Of the big iguanas. They're just horrible pets. A while back, we did a video on savanna monitors. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out right here. And in that video, I was very much trying to communicate. In fact, I told you, they're a bad pet lizard. And a lot of people have commented that they were thinking about getting a savanna monitor, and after watching our video, they decided to go a different route. And that's made me really happy. But there are some people who have said, after watching that video, they want a savanna monitor more than before. So obviously...
Exactly what happens, because usually how it goes is when you raise some topic and you're speaking about something, and probably your intention to explain the topic and kind of tell to people, don't do this. But what will happen instead? Watching this material or video or reading something, it will make people even want this certain animal even more, you see? So it's probably you are serving the different, like you're getting the different result than you're expecting to get. Here's the question: is it normal for an iguana to wag its tail when it's young? What is a wag? Let me see. I just don't know this word. Okay. Iguana can wag his tail in any age, especially if it's been triggered, especially if it's been under some mood or been aggressive or territorial. Usually what they do the first is they start showing that they don't want this, let's say they're doing this behind a human, they just don't want this interaction. Yeah, they just don't want this, they're trying to avoid the further interaction with a human or with other animal. And it starts from the tail, then it may hit with the tail, and then it may bite. That's how the iguana just trying to be territorial and show certain, like with this body language, that he's not very happy in the current state, in the current moment with what's going on. So let's continue with the video.
Honestly, I need to be a little bit more clear about this stuff. Savanna monitors are bad pets because they're very difficult to really care for appropriately.
I think the word bad pet is inappropriate. I understand what Clint is trying to, what message Clint is trying to send here, but I don't think that the bad pet is appropriate wording, appropriate way of putting things in this particular case.
You really take care of one right, it's going to need a good chunk of your house, and it's going to need a huge part of your salary. And then, it's not that bad. It may or may not ever be a very nice lizard, but they're very food motivated. You can work with one. You can get it to be somewhat reasonable. Not a good pet lizard, but better than this. Because of these things, the Savannah monitor is not right for most people. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the green iguana is not right for anybody.
I would avoid again putting the statement clear. I understand why Clint is trying to say what he's saying, but I disagree with this way of putting things.
They're really bad, and the problem with them isn't care. It's really not very hard to keep an iguana alive. The problem with green iguanas is their personality.
True. True. Here, 100% true, 100% agree. The personality of iguana plays the main role in their behavior. Usually, albino animals, albino iguanas have a better behavior and better attitude than the regular iguanas, again for the reason that they can see. They have this sight. The regular ones, right? While the albino animals doesn't have this sight, and they cannot be stressed so easily. So that's where the behavior, the bad behavior, the bad character of an iguana comes from. It comes from that this animal feeling uncomfortable and this animal feeling scared. It's not that they're just asshole animals. No, they are animals that feeling discomfort and then trying to escape and that trying to avoid the communication with a human or someone. They just want to be left alone. So this is very important to understand where that anger comes from. It's not like it's a devil animal. No, this animal just wants to be left alone. And yes, there are regular iguanas, not albinos, who have better mood. Let's say this, everyone knows him, iguana body, right? He is a normal iguana, he is not blind, he is not albino, but his behavior is very nice. And that's how much goes into the character of the animal. And saying that iguanas are bad for everyone and the baddest pets, I would just avoid saying that.
They are not nice. They're not nice lizards, and they're full of weapons. I am going to go ahead and say this right now. I do not recommend green iguanas to anybody. The only people who I think should have green iguanas are rescues who have taken them off the hands of people who made a horrible decision. Those are the only people who should have green iguanas. Do not buy an iguana. But, just in...
I disagree. Strongly disagree. You can speak for everyone. You can speak only for yourself. There are people like me, for example, who dreamed for years just to have iguana, and who studied the behavior of this animal and the needs of this animal and everything about this animal in advance before having this lizard pet, right? Beforehand. So now, knowing that knowledge and having all that information, I can make a decision. But he is right in terms of there are huge ton of people who diving into this iguana pet problem without having any information. They don't know how much expensive is the equipment, how aggressive can those animals be, without knowing their body language, without knowing their behavior during the breeding period, without knowing the differences between male and female behavior, without knowing the amount of time you will have to put into this animal. They just start having it as a pet. And this is a big mistake. Again, coming to the problem of iguanas and invasive species in Florida right now, yeah? get back to the video.
In case you're one of the people who is considering opening up a reptile rescue, I'm going to give you a little preview into one of the most common rescue reptiles you're going to run into. We give the green iguana overall a score of 2.6 out of 5.
Wait. Guys, like you see at this picture and take a look and say me what is wrong right away. Like, what is wrong here? Anyone? Why are we measuring iguana in a chameleons? Iguanas should be measured in iguanas, right? Why are we making a measure of an iguana in the shape of chameleons? It's wrong. Let's continue.
And that will come down to our 5 categories, which are handleability, care, hardiness, availability, and upfront costs. So let's start with handleability, shall we? We give the green iguana a score of 1 out of 5 for handleability. This one here is about as good as they come, and she's kind of a handful. Any iguana may be good sometimes, but there are certainly going to be times in their life, especially when they hit maturity, it might just depend on the time of year or how they're feeling that day, when suddenly they won't be nice at all. And they may...
The same as with people. When you're assigned your friendship or your relationship with some person, this person will never be the same. You cannot expect from someone be the nicest thing ever all the time. No, it's not how the life works. It will be ups and downs. It will be differences in behavior. But I see what he's saying here. Overall, I agree. Like, the behavior of an iguana most of the times can be just terrible, but again, it comes from the fear. It's very important to understand. Because without understanding this important point, that their behavior not coming from their nature, their behavior coming from the fear, coming from the attempt to protect themselves. This way, understanding this, you will be able to build the relationship with the animal. This way.
May never be nice again. Most of them are not good most of the time. Some of them deserve a 0 for handleability because they won't let you anywhere within 10 feet of them without charging at you and trying to harm you, and they're very good at harming you. They can drop that tail. It's probably not something they're going to do on their own.
By the way, looking at this animal here and looking at its spikes, you can see that the spikes of this little creature here are not in a healthy way, and just as looking at humans' nails on the fingers and the hair, you can see if this person healthy or not. The same goes for iguanas. We are looking at their spikes. You can tell if the care for this animal is proper or not. I don't want to comment in any way on the way how this animal is treated by Clint or his team. I'm in no position to comment on that because I don't have knowledge on that, but just by looking at this animal, I see that probably the humidity have to be better in this enclosure, because iguanas, for their well-being, need a humidity of 70+%. If you take a look at Tamerlan, right here, you see those spikes. They are healthy, they are straight, they are even length, and they are without these deformations. Because the humidity in the enclosure is always kept by electronic devices on the same amount, same level. The same goes for the nutrients and calcium and the food and everything that goes into the diet. Everything is measured and everything is given in the proper way. So I just wanted to, mention this point, that this is not how the healthy iguana should look like. That's for sure. Let's continue.
And they're very good at harming you. They can drop that tail. It's probably not something they're going to do on their own, but if it got pulled or crushed, they can definitely drop that tail, and they'll regenerate it, but it's not quite the same. But honestly...
By the way, about the tail regeneration, it's interesting that when iguana drops the tail, it does not grow. So the tail consists of these vertebrae, right? And they go all the way to the tip of the tail. And when the certain length of this tail is broken, all those vertebrae after the break are gone, obviously. So iguana cannot grow those vertebrae back. This is important to understand. It's not growing the bones that comes into the tail. It grows the one static kind of a hard connective tissue to fill in the size, because they need the weapon to fight against the predators, right? That's why this mechanism developed in the nature, where they grow back their tails. But it's important to understand that when iguana is losing tail, it will never have this tail back again on the original state. It will have this one solid single stick coming out of the broken tail that doesn't have any bones in it. It cannot be well bended, and it doesn't have muscles there that can help operate the tail. So that's important to know. Let's continue.
And you know this means a lot coming from me. Dropping their tail is not the worst thing they do with that tail. That tail is going to be their first line of defense, generally speaking, and they're going to rear up and they're going to whip you with it, and it's like a razor whip, and it can cut you open and send you for stitches. So it's an exciting little whip there that they've got on the backside. Moving forward, they've got razor sharp claws that they can tear you open with, and potentially you can need stitches for that. That's probably...
Even though I trim the nails of Tamerlan on the regular basis with the electric trimmer, with this little trimmer for the pet nails, my hands mostly always are having the scratches, because the pressure and the strength of those muscles on the legs are so big that they can scratch you even with the nails being trimmed. Like you see this animal here have the trimmed nails, but still I bet it can really harm you with it.
Probably not something they're going to do defensively, but if you pick one up wrong, and if its nails happen to be pretty sharp, that can be pretty nasty. The mouth is actually the business in that I'm the most concerned about, because...
Yes, the iguana mouth, iguana teeth, are probably the sickest thing I ever seen and ever experienced. Those teeth, iguana teeth, they are like shark teeth. It's not just the teeth like a dog have or like human have, right? Those teeth have this shape, and they also have this little spikes on the sides, like the knife for bread, you know? It's not just a knife that has this clear surface, but this knife has kind of tooth on the knife. The same goes for the iguana tooth. When they grab and when they really bite you really hard, it can be really painful and can make you big damage.
Because they do bite, especially mature adult males. They'll come and they'll bite, and they will death roll, and they will shake and rip you apart. And I have seen some massive iguana bites on faces. And
and you're looking at this guy right now, right here, and this the red thing from Strawberry, and he's like, yeah, I know, I'm doing that. That's what I do, usually in the morning, around 10 a.m. every day. Yes, all that is true.
Arms and legs. A lot of people who've lost fingers to iguanas. That's why I'm keeping...
A lot of people who lost fingers to iguanas. This is something new for me. I never heard someone losing finger to iguana bite. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there is an evidence for that. Me personally, I'm just don't aware of someone losing fingers, for the reason that iguana teeth are very sharp, and they are doing excellent job in cutting meat and skin. But I don't think that these teeth are capable of cutting the bone tissue. I don't think so. I mean, I may be wrong, or maybe this person lost the finger because so much damage was dealt to the tissues. That probably the true, but iguana unable to cut the bone. No, I don't think so.
Keeping a pretty good eye on this one. She seems to be pretty good as iguanas go, but I don't like her looking at me like that, so I keep a little eye on her. Big mature males are very, very territorial, and so females are going to be better than males, but not always. And when they're not good, it's horrible just the same. There are exceptions. But even in an exception, even if you have an iguana that right now has always been great, seems mellow all the time, they can change just spontaneously. You won't see it coming until it's latched.
I can agree with this. The only one time when Tom beat me, and I wasn't able to read his body language before the bite, it was a fraction of a second. It took him a fraction of a second to find my finger, to cut it open, and to go away. It was done so fast, I wasn't able to blink my eye. It's like the speed that it was done with, it was definitely unexpected, and yeah, it was insane.
Onto your face, and that's sub-ideal. When it comes to care, we give the green iguana a score of 3 out of 5. Care is really not...
I cannot see his measuring iguana in chameleons, man. Iguanas deserve to be measured in iguanas for the graphics. I think so.
Not all that bad for a giant lizard. They need an absolutely enormous enclosure. It needs to be tall, long, and wide. It needs to have areas for them to climb. It can be very difficult to clean this enclosure if you've got an iguana that won't allow you anywhere within 10 feet of it. So that's something to keep in mind, that sometimes you're not going to be allowed in there, and when you do go in, it means you're going to have to wrestle that iguana, probably throw a big blanket on it, cover it up, drag.
You see, when he's saying things like that, where you have to wrestle your iguana, to put a blanket on it, I can tell that the relationship between animal and human in this case is already on the point where it's over the line. My suggestion is to try to keep this relationship from the beginning in the better place, and to learn read the body language of the animal, and to avoid the stress from the very beginning. If you see that this animal doesn't want right now to be petted, let it be. Don't push it. Wait till evening, let's say it's 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. in the evening, when it's already sleeping, and this way, by touching it slowly, time by time, day by day, month by month, slowly, take it easy. Get the animal comfortable with your touch, with your like when you're standing close to terrarium. Little step by little step, build this relationship. Don't rush it. Don't push it. Okay? Because Clint talking right now about the state of things where it's already over the line. It's not normal relationship between animal and the human, where a human have to jump with a blanket on this animal just to keep it away and to be able to clean the enclosure. It's wrong. I'm a strong believer that by feeling your animal that you are having at home, you will be able to build the at least sufferable and normal relationship.
I get out of there, it's going to be quite the ordeal. I guess just sort of like having a small angry ninja that lives in a room in your house and doesn't clean up after himself. You are going to need to keep humidity up in that enclosure, and they're going to need to have access to water. Also, they're going to need proper lighting. They're going to need quite a bit of heat in a very large area, so that's going to be a lot of lights.
So I guess what this person in the chat is saying, Laura, is that chameleon is regarding the chameleon. I understand that he used this chameleon animal as a measurement for this graph. It was just a joke by my side, and I'm sorry if you guys didn't get it. Okay, let's move forward. By the way, about the water tanks, decision I made for myself is I removed all the coverings from the floor of my terrarium and I just put the water tanks in there. I guess my camera died, which is unfortunate, but let's finish watching this video. So yeah, my point for my enclosure, I made a decision to have the floor covered with the water pools where Tamerlan will have a constant reach to the water as he need. Chameleon is Clint's business logo and the visual aid. I understand that. Thank you for letting me know. It was a joke from my side. Okay, let's continue.
Heat in a very large area, so that's going to be a lot of lights or a lot of money to heat a room. So keep that in mind. They also need UVB lighting, which doesn't travel all that far, so you're going to need probably a lot of it in various different locations in the enclosure. They also are going to eat a lot as adults, mostly greens. As juveniles, they're going to eat some insects, but as adults, they're going to be eating almost purely greens, fruits, and greens like mustard greens, collard greens, kale in moderation, but you don't want too much of that because it can bind calcium. These sorts of things you're going to need to be buying a lot of. They're also going to need calcium and vitamin supplements.
And you know what? Talking about Tam, he's eating better food than me. Like, when I'm going shopping and I'm buying food for myself, I can buy like anything. But for him, I'm always buying organic food. Just trying to stay organic. Always.
Like most lizards. When it comes to hardiness, we actually give the green iguana a score of 4 out of 5. Almost all imports, which is going to be the vast majority of iguanas that you're going to see, they're going to be farm-raised babies. They are going to probably have some parasites to them. They're going to be a little bit emaciated and starved from the journey. But if you get them past that point, they're probably going to be pretty solid for you as long as you give them the proper enclosure, proper heat.
I think so. I agree 100% here. The best you can do is to get the animal from the breeder, from some farm. First, it will be the clean animal. Second, the behavior can be better. They will not be as wild as the wild animals, just the ones that are caught in the wild. And third, they will get used to hands, to human hands, right? They will be among people from their childhood as they are born. And yeah, I think it's a very good point.
Humidity, access to water, food, they're going to do just fine. When I say that they're farm raised, what this really means is that somebody has a big pen in their backyard, basically, probably down in Mexico or somewhere warm where they're just outside running around, basically kept like wild iguanas. They might be flinging out a little bit of food for them every now and then. And they're breeding back there. And so periodically they gather up all the babies, stuff them into boxes, and ship them to wherever you are. They are in some ways better than wild caught, really only because you're not decimating any wild populations. If you get one that's captive bred, which would be better, I still wouldn't recommend it, but better, you're not going to have to worry about that initial point where you could very easily lose your lizard. When it comes to availability, we give these a score of 3 out of 5. Of course, you know that it's fairly easy to get an imported baby, but a captive bred individual is harder to find. You're probably going to need...
Okay, availability. I would say right now, when the iguanas are completely banned in Florida, probably availability will depend on the state where you are. And I guess from the country where you are, because the country where I'm from, iguana was really hard to get. In America, it's much easier to have this animal at home. But yes, if you talk about the morphs, let's say it's the morph of albino iguana, it's even harder to get it.
Need to go straight to a breeder or online, but they are out there. This one, for example, is a blue, possibly exanthic morph, probably captive bred, though some of these are also farm raised. The reason not very many people breed them is because you can buy them for $20 as imports, and so who's going to put the money and time and effort into having a huge group of giant, angry, cranky monster lizards to produce babies if they're having to compete with $25 lizards. Not very many people are interested in breeding green iguanas, and that's probably a good thing. If you are going to breed iguanas, you're probably going to keep some of the more expensive, slightly better pet iguanas like the Cuban rock iguana or rhinoceros iguanas, which are better.
I love those. I love those. Rhinoceros iguanas are just beautiful. Oh my god. They're such a wonderful animal. I want it someday.
Pets, but that doesn't mean that they won't bite you on the face one day. If you are very interested in keeping iguanas, I would definitely recommend Camp Kenan. His channel is actually pretty good. He keeps his iguanas outside, which is definitely the best scenario for keeping an iguana. Not an option for everybody, but if you happen to live in Florida, great option. Just don't let them go because they do just fine in Florida on their own. They don't really need you. They're like...
Exactly, this is a great point, and I already spoke about this in the beginning of our stream. The huge problem is handmade by the people who are just letting their pets outside without any second thought. It just makes me sick. Again, all those suffering that iguanas are going through in Florida right now is mostly on the hands of those irresponsible people who are just letting this happen. I agree with Clint here.
Cats. I don't want to discourage those of you who have iguanas from bringing them to a reptile rescue. You're asking a lot of somebody, but do not release them into the wild.
Yes.
We actually have a whole video about what you should do if you have obtained an animal like an iguana and later on decided this was a bad choice. If you have the heart to rescue an iguana, there are so many of them that need rescued. It's going to be a horrible pet for you, so this is just a total sacrifice. But
true.
That's probably the only scenario in which I would recommend getting one at all. And make sure that's really what you want for yourself, because that is a sacrifice. That is...
No, I think his message here, his main message here is absolutely correct. Like, taking aside certain things, I think his main message in this video is absolutely right. Like it.
Not you getting something cool. That is you getting a new awful responsibility, but doing a lizard and an irresponsible keeper a favor. When it comes to upfront costs, we give the green iguana a score of 2 out of 5. Even if you buy a cheap import, the cost of the iguana is not what's expensive. It's going to be that enormous enclosure with all the fancy lighting.
True. Not only lighting, but heating, humidity. All the, like right now, the setup that Tamerlan I'm having everything electronically and Wi-Fi directed, so I can take my phone, disable, enable lights, disable, enable heating, temperature, humidity. Everything is checked and measured electronically. I also have a backup system that if the main one will go down, the backup will automatically measure the temperature and turn on. So it's just to build this infrastructure for the terrarium, for the iguana to feel comfortable. It takes a lot of efforts and also knowledge and of course money. So this is true.
That's what's going to be very, very expensive. Like I said, if you can do it outdoors, it'll be considerably cheaper. But if this is going to be an indoor enclosure, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're probably and almost certainly going to have to build this yourself. So hopefully you've got access to power tools. You are going to need a big water dish, large enough for them to soak in it. Because if you can't provide a place for them to soak, that means you're going to need to pull that lizard out and soak it. And sometimes they won't put up with that.
True. I think in the best case scenario, you have to do both. You have to take your animal out and soak him like 2-3 times a week, this way or another, because it's just how they absorb water. They absorb water not only from food, but also through their skin. And you have to give enough water for them to feel good, also by spraying during the day, also by providing the water in these bowls. As I said, in my terrarium, I cover the whole bottom side of the terrarium with the water bowls where there is no empty space. It's all covered kind of with water, and for them it seems very, very good. It seems he when he needs to go to the toilet or he wants to drink, very rare occasions, he just goes down and do what he needs.
When you think about it, a water dish big enough for a 6+ foot male green iguana to soak in is a serious water dish. Overall, we give the green iguana a score of 2.6 out of 5. Really, that's
Let me think about it. I think he's right in everything regarding the regular iguana. I think it's a very good video. I think he's saying everything, all things correct with regards of a regular green iguana that probably was rescued or was caught in the wild. But there is, especially later in the years, there is another aspect of it as albino iguanas, as also albinos, as iguanas who are much more friendly with people lately. Like again, let's take a look at that iguana body iguana. He's very friendly with his owner. So I would agree with this score.
a fantastic score for such a horrible pet lizard. In
It's not
most
horrible.
ways, they really are great captives.
It's not horrible. It's just the human is not being ready and prepared and knowledgeable enough to have this pet. They are not horrible.
It's just that personality. It's horrible.
It's not their personality. It's not their personality. It's their scare and their protectiveness and their fear. It's not their personality. It's just their natural reaction to this distraction.
It's a horrible personality almost with every single individual. And like I said, even if you got a good one, it could just snap on you one day. And that makes them horrible, horrible pet reptiles. If you what you want is a big lizard that is amazing to look at, expensive to keep, that hates your guts and might spontaneously attack you and bite off your fingers or your nose. It's loaded with weapons like a little room ninja. Green
Here
iguanas
you
are
go.
for you. If you don't
Yeah.
like grievous injuries and trips to the emergency room, then I can list literally just dozens and dozens of better pet lizards than this.
Yes, exactly. One in Texas rocket the iguana and another in Ireland lizard the body. Their pets are quite peace and charm. This is my point. Like, super important to understand in this case. Don't bring the relationship with your pet to the point where you have to jump on this animal with a blanket just to keep it calm and like to be afraid of him entering the room. This relationship is already brought to the wrong level. There is a history before this that brought the situation to this level. Don't you like Clint, you're trying to see the situation from the end result. What I'm trying to say is that you should look at this further back, understand where this problem is coming from, and try to avoid this moving forward with your in your relationship with your animal. That's my point. Yes, I agree that they can be super territorial, super aggressive. They can hurt you. But that's all comes that they're just scared. They are just being scared. That's it.
To do that, please check out the lists of great pet lizards and other reptiles that we've already compiled. We're going to be releasing more of those. There are so many great pet reptiles out there. There's just absolutely no reason at all to have a green iguana.
There is a reason to have an iguana if this iguana is what you want and is what you prepared yourself for and you have the knowledge. If you doesn't have these check marks, iguana will be the worst pet for you. I agree.
Make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to our channel, click the little bell so you can get the updates whenever we come out with another lizard that is so much better than a green iguana to keep as a pet. Every Saturday, we're going to come out with a new video, and basically all of them are going to
I think it's a great video. Here is the link. Give him a like and follow. I think he's sending the very correct message to the iguana owners, and I understand what he's trying to do here. I just personally wouldn't be as what's the word? I wouldn't be so sharp on the saying, but overall his message is correct. It's a great video. He's bringing the acknowledgement to people and owners. So give him a like and follow.